Okay, so this is going to be a bit of a tutorial on how to create a simple advert. I say it's simple if you know how, in After Effects using assets created in Illustrator. So as you can see here, I've got two mock-ups already made in Illustrator. So this is going to be our first initial animation. And then this is going to be our call to action. So with the book now, and we're going to have a bit of a transition between the two. So the reason why I've opened up Illustrator to start off with is just to show you and remind you about the layers and how to safely save your Illustrator files so that you can animate them in After Effects. So every single asset on here has got its own separate layer. I've labelled them just so I can remember what they are. So left cloud, right cloud, top left laurel, top right laurel, etc, etc. So everything's got its own place, and you'll have a much easier time in After Effects if you label these appropriately. This artboard, as you can see, hasn't got as many, but I have. So my intention is to rotate the text inside of the crest. So I've just labelled that so I know what I'm going to be doing when I get into After Effects. Okay, so let's get started. So in After Effects, we're going to do what we always do when we've been working in Illustrator or Photoshop. I've not really mentioned Photoshop throughout these, but you can do exactly the same with layers in Photoshop. If you're making something in there, just make sure you've labelled all your layers appropriately, put things onto the right layers, and then you should be able to import them exactly the same way. So if we just right click and hit import, and we'll go to file. And the first one we're going to be working with is that initial one with all of the guitars and plectrums and skulls and things on it. So yeah, we're just going to jump into that one, import footage, composition, retain layer sizes. Once again, it's late, and we're going to hit import. Okay, so double clicking on the composition, and you're going to see we're kind of working with a lot of stuff in here. This is a bit overwhelming. It's going to be super difficult to work with it all at once. My initial thoughts on the animation is the text is going to scale from nothing and come into presence from the center of the screen, and the rest of the assets are going to come from the outside of the screen using simple keyframing like we have done in the past. So I don't think a lot of this stuff is going to be new to you, but the way in which we're going to work with multiple objects, hopefully you'll be able to see how we can save time in different ways. So let's start off by scrolling right to the top of this. You should see L guitar, that's the top one. So it's going to be this one here. Just click on L guitar, don't select or anything, scroll down until you see Ramon's crest, and I know if I shift click on that, it's going to select everything in between, and I know that's everything apart from our text. So these purple boxes, we've not really used these before, but I'm just going to click on one of the purple boxes and I'll select green for these, just so I know their assets and the rest of them are type and background. And while we're here, we can lock the background down because we're not going to be using that. It just needs to stay exactly where it is. So, a few new things. The first thing is the shy, I think it's called the shy guy, just shy guy, it's a little person. With all of these layers selected, if we were to just click on that so that the little face is hidden, and then using the master shy at the top, if you just click on that, it's not going to delete anything, but it's just going to hide the layers. So it's a little bit like hiding on the scene, except we're freeing up a bit of our area for the layers. If you just unhide that and click on one of the eyes, we'll need to select them all again. Let's just do that now. So click the top one, hold shift, click the bottom one, and then just click one of the eyes. That should hide them all. And then we'll just click the shy icon again, and then we're left with just what we need, really. Okay, so we are going to have all of this just scale from nothing. So let's go and shift click. So we're going to be doing a lot of shift clicking because we're going to be doing singular animations that apply to multiple layers, which hopefully you're going to find fairly handy. So yeah, click the top one, hold shift, click the bottom one that you want. And then we're going to use our another shortcut that we've done in the past. We're going to press S. That's going to bring up our scale keyframes. So we've got it where we want. As you probably know by now, we kind of work in reverse because we set up our scene how we want it to look, and then we take steps back and animate in that way. So I'm going to hold shift and hit page down just to go 10 frames ahead. And then I'm going to hit our stopwatch on scale. Then I'm just going to scrub the timeline back to 0. And if you've got them all still selected, you should be able to just click into any one of these 100s, hit 0 and enter or return. And that should do everything for you. So now when we hit space, that's coming up. Cool. Let's easy ease them. Click and drag a marquee over all, how many is there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's 12 keyframes. Click and drag over all 12 keyframes. Hit F9. And then we'll also add our motion blur into that as well. Remember, it's the circle with a few circles behind it. If you just click into any of these, it should apply it to all of them because we've still got it all selected. There we go. Cool. So that's our text pretty much done. We could, again, if we wanted to, go into the graph editor. We're not going to be going into the graph editor for this tutorial, so that's fine. But we've got what we need for our text there. Okay, so just press U to hide all that. We'll lock all them down, and then we'll hit our shy guy and move into our tremendous amount of assets that are going to be coming on the screen. So let's select them all again. Hit the little eye to bring them all back. And then scrub the timeline back to 0, and we'll just hit shift page down again. So we're at that 10 frame mark. Don't worry, it's not going to be an animation that lasts 10 seconds. Now, all we're going to do with all of them selected is hit P for position and then hit the stopwatch. And that should apply it to all of them if you've got them all selected. Again, saving you lots of time there, which is good. And then we're just going to scrub that timeline back to 0. Now this is the one bit that I've found I couldn't figure out a way to automate, but we're just going to go through this now, which is dragging all of the objects off screen. So I'm going to do it really quickly and probably a bit messier, with everything being mirrored or parallel, symmetrical, whatever, on the screen. You could probably make them come in at exactly the same angles. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to drag things down. Ooh, not like that though. Obviously deselect everything first. There we go. So you don't need to go in here and select anything. Just click and grab them on the screen like that. I'll try and be as quick as I can with this. Just can figure out how to fast forward. I will do. And again, you know, you can spend a bit of time with this. Obviously, the longer you spend, the better it will look. But this is probably not the most exciting thing to watch, so do it all nice and quick. I've definitely not done everything perfect there, but that's okay. Let's have a quick look at that. Cool. All flying on. Let's easy ease them. sometimes go a bit funny just towards the top for some reason. We'll get there though. Didn't take this long last time, but there we go, we're there. Okay, got them all selected, just going to press F9 and apply that motion blur to them. And already that's looking pretty good, but we can make it last a little bit longer and be a little bit more sequential, I suppose. So we could go in here individually and drag them all to to roughly the right time, so you've got them all coming in a little bit like what we did in the snowy town, but there is a bit of a better way that we can do it, especially when we've got this many assets to work with. So first and foremost, we need to decide how long the animation is going to be. So I'm going to roughly put it for 5 seconds. Currently we're at 21 seconds. So I'm just going to go up to composition and composition settings, and we're just going to put that to 0.5. Okay, hit OK on that. That should bring it all down. There we go. Cool. So I've still got everything selected. If you don't, for any reason, remember, just do the shift, the click at the top, shift click at the bottom, and then just right click anywhere into one of your layers. And then we are going to go to keyframe assistant, and the only one that should be highlighted is sequence layers. So this is a little bit funny, this one, in the sense of, if we were to put 5 seconds, which is what we've put our timeline at, it's not going to do anything at all. You probably will be, when you first open this up, you don't have overlap selected, just select that. Now we have got, I believe we're on 29.97 frames a second, basically 30 frames a second. And so the time that we've been altering here, this one here is seconds, then that's minutes, and I think that's hours. Never had use for that yet. The two numbers here, that yours will probably be 0, 0, I would have thought. These are your frames, so it's not milliseconds or anything like, it's frames. Now, because we're basically, well, it says base 30 drop, which is the same thing as 29.97. I won't worry too much about that for now, though. What we want is for each of these to have roughly about a frame or two in between each other before the next animation starts. And so the way in which we do that is by saying the duration is going to be just short of 5 seconds. So we've got it at 5 seconds. I'll try putting it at 28 frames. So we've got a little bit of leeway, and that will stagger the stagger each of the layers and sequence them. I know that doesn't sound, it probably doesn't make a lot of sense here, but the best way to see it is just by testing it. So if I hit that with 4 seconds and 28 frames, no transition, let's hit OK, and that's going to stagger them pretty well. And we're not quite going to make it to our 5 seconds there. Let's just have a look at the speed of that. The speed's pretty good on that, to be honest with you. You don't need to do this, but I'll just take a quick step back and show you slower than that. So if I was to do 27, for example, so we're getting closer to that 5 seconds with that. So the less frames, it's giving it more increments, more frame increments before the next one starts. It's not actually speeding up any of the animations, it's just how it's spacing the animations apart from each other. So everything's moving at the same speed, it's just taking a little bit longer to come on. That's looking alright actually, so I think I might leave it at 27. Yeah, I'll leave it at 27. So if you can make that change as well, that will be helpful. And that takes us to just past 4 seconds, which is okay. That's okay. Cool. So we've got close to a 5-second animation. That's good. Now, I forgot to mention at the start, but the reason why this is square is I'm designing this for Instagram. So Instagram's resolution for video, or optimal resolution for video, is 1080 by 1080 pixels, which is why it's square. Now we can do this, all of the things we've just done, in the exact same way using any resolution. I've just decided to go for an Instagram one because I think that's probably the most relevant for this sort of stuff. So when we're happy with that, I'm just going to hit U, select one of them, deselect that, there we go, bring them all down just so we know what we're working with. And then what we're going to use is we're going to take this composition, we're going to create a new composition with this inside of it, and then we're going to duplicate this and reverse it. Okay, so how do you make that new composition? Take your already existing composition, click and drag it all the way down here to this little icon here that looks like a composition. It's got the red, blue and green icons in it, and release. Okay, so now what that has done is created a composition, and it's got our initial composition inside of it. So as you can see, this will play exactly the same, but it's all just on one layer because it's basically a wrapper for everything we've just done. If we double click, we can go back into it and then come back to this one. And you could potentially rename this if you wanted to. Let's go up here, hit return, and call this final edit. Cool. So we've got a 5-second animation. Let's double that. So we're going to go to composition, composition settings, and we'll make that 10 seconds. Okay, and then nothing, it'll look like nothing's happened. If you just tap minus on your keyboard, it'll zoom out and you can see now our animation only goes to halfway, which is 5 seconds. So let's highlight that, hit Control and D, and then drag that across like that. Now, obviously they're both playing, they're both it's just gonna loop essentially with that. What we're gonna do is right click and go to time, reverse layer. And now when we play, it should fly off again. And to be honest with you, if you were just to do that, that would be absolutely brilliant. Fits absolutely what we're trying to achieve. You know, you make your own assets for whatever it is that you were wanting to do. Obviously, you can follow along with this tutorial to begin with, but all of these principles will work with whatever assets you wanted to make. So let's take it one step further, and we're going to bring in our other Illustrator file, which is Ramon's Insta CTA call to action. We need to do this in exactly the same way. So composition, retain layer sizes, hit import, and then just double click on that one to open it up. Okay, so we're not going to be doing anything with the background, anything with Ramon's at the top, anything with Ramon's crest. We are going to be looking at the book now, and we're going to be looking primarily with the rotate. So let's hit R on our keyboard with rotate selected, and we're going to use an expression for this because this is just something I want to do infinitely for as long as this composition lasts for. So if you remember from previous tutorials, if you hold Alt and click on the stopwatch, we're not even going to make it go blue or anything. We're just going to go in here and type time, Shift 8, which gives you the little star symbol, and then you can type whatever number you want. The higher the number, the quicker the rotation is going to take place. So if I was to put 100, for example, and then hit space, it's going to be spinning. It's a little bit too fast. So just from testing this earlier on, I think 25 was pretty good. Let's try that. That's looking pretty good. Does hurt the eyes a bit if you stare directly at it. We could in fact make that a little bit slower. Let's make it 15 potentially. Yeah, I think that's nicer actually. Doesn't make me dizzy, which is good. So we've got that rotating. Now remember, I had them on separate layers, so the crest as a whole is not on the same layer as the names of the band. Okay? And that's good. So the last thing, and I'm hoping this doesn't blast your ears, but I have made a very, very rudimentary bit of audio for this as well. Maybe turn your audio down. I'm not entirely sure how bad it's going to be. Okay, so I'm not sure whether that's coming through my mic or through the computer actually. So, so anyway, we've got this audio, and I'm just going to loop up the book now so it pulses when in time with the beat. Okay. So I'm going to go to the book now, select that and hit scale. And then I'll go forward maybe, I'll go forward 2 frames. No, in fact, I'm not going to do that at all. I'm just going to hit the scale icon because we want it to look like that initially. Then I'm going to hit page down twice. I will scale it to 125%. Yeah, that should be good. And then page down twice again, and I'm just going to take that first keyframe, Control C, Control V. Let's have a look. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I'm going to select all of them. And just look for, well, I'm just roughing it out at the moment. I can make larger adjustments as necessary, but so that's about there, and I'll just put that very close to it there as well. Let's just listen. Okay, that was well off there. Let's just drag that back a bit. Remember, I'm just marquee selecting them. Marquee selecting and then just dragging them. Okay, it's a little bit fast. Okay, I could sit and play with that a lot, but I'm not going to because I'm not sure where the audio is coming for you guys, so I will just make this as quick as possible. So I've just selected all of them now, and I can just paste all them in. Okay, that's not too bad. Okay, I think that one maybe was a bit slow. Just the ones at the end, I think. There. And you'll notice that we're coming to the end here, and we're just missing a bit of the audio, so we need to go to composition settings. It's currently at 10. Let's just make it 11. Yeah, okay, zoom out a bit, and you'll notice the audio continues, but the the image assets are still stuck at 10. So we just need to go like that. We'll have to unlock things. Oh, still locked, yeah, might help. There we go, just select them all by hitting the shift key again, bring that up to about 11 seconds. And let's just go and check that one. Okay, that's as near as damn it, that'll do. Okay, so we've got some pulsing going on just to draw the viewer's attention to the book now, which is good. Got a bit of visual interest going on. We've got some audio, regardless of how rudimentary that might be. And we've got all that. So that's cool. So we've got all that going for us now, which is nice. So we've got 11 seconds on the clock there. Let's go back to final edit. And this is currently at 10 seconds. So we're going to again go to composition settings. And 10 plus 11 is 21. I'm going to make it 23 though, because I want there to be a little bit of black space in between these initial animations and the one that we've just made. So roughly half a second to a second there, and then we can do a fade out at the end of the one we've just made, making a full loop. So giving ourselves 23 seconds, that's okay. We can adjust it afterwards. Okay, so we've got all that. Let's take our Ramon CTA, bring that in here as well. Drag that to there, and I'm just going to put it there for now, and we'll just have a look at that. Okay, so it does, I'm going to go back into that one actually. It does end rather abruptly, and it starts rather abruptly. So we could, let's add on composition settings. Let's add a second on to the start and the end. So we'll make that 13 seconds there. Okay, let's just select all of our assets again and bring them up. We're not going to be able to pull the audio, obviously, because the audio is a set amount of time. But what we can do is bring the audio in a little bit after the visuals, just to take the edge off things a bit. So if I just select all of my keyframes and no, not that, control, not shift, there we go, select all them and then control. So yeah, if you don't want to select everything in between, just hold control as you select another thing, and then we'll bring this in just so all of the timings that I've done with the audio don't go out of sync with the audio, obviously. Okay, cool. But we do want the visuals to stay there though. So I'm just going to drag that back slightly. Okay, so we can now, let's just get rid of our scale for a sec by hitting S. I'm just going to lock the background down, we don't need that. And I'm going to hold shift for these guys. And we're going to do, we'll do a fade in. So with them all selected, press O. Oh no, not O. Silly me. With them all selected, press T. There we go. And the audio starts about there. In fact, it would be good to have my my scale open just for a second. Yep, so that starts exactly there. Let's have these fade in over roughly a second, just so it doesn't jump out at people too much. Okay, with them all selected, we're going to hit opacity at roughly just before the audio starts, and then we're going to go back to 0, click on any of the hundreds and just hit 0. Oh, did I not have everything selected? Maybe not. Okay. Oh, it's because I typed it into scale, didn't I? Being silly. Hopefully you didn't make that mistake. Let's try that again. There we go. Okay, I won't subject you to all that again. We will then take it to here, making sure you've got them all selected, and once again we'll do some opacity. So we want it to stay at 100, so all we're going to do there is click the add keyframe button and then scroll to roughly here, and making sure you click opacity, hit 0 on any of them, and that should fade it out quite nicely. Okay, cool. So now we know this is 13 seconds. We're going to go back to our final edit, and will that reload? Oh yeah, beautiful. Right, okay. But you might notice that we now have a bit of a grey area on this. We just need to pull that so it fills the entire bar, because obviously we've increased the time that we've added to that specific composition. So let's hit space on that. Okay, so a little bit better. And because it fades out at the end, it can loop back to the start pretty nicely. Okay. So it's a bit of a simple approach to animation for online advertising and that sort of stuff. I say simple. I know there's again a lot of concepts to get into your head with compositions and that sort of stuff, but the movements themselves, they should be pretty familiar to you. It's really just a case of just using those position keyframes. We've done a bit of opacity and some scale, and we also did a rotate using expressions. So I'm going to save this as Ramon's Instagram advert. There we go. Because I did the whole thing then once again without saving. Please don't be like me. Save all the time. We'll go to export, add to Adobe Media Encoder queue. Just while that's loading in, we got to 23 seconds with that, which is absolutely brilliant, to be honest with you. We don't want the thing to be too fast, so it bores people very quickly, but we also don't want it to feel like you're watching a long movie. So we have got this. We'll call it Ramon's Insta video file MP4. Yes, please. H264, which will play very nicely with Instagram as well, and just hit play. Okay, and inside that, we've now got our final thing. I'll just mute that. Okay, If you managed to follow along with it all, brilliant, well done. You can use all of the principles there, just replacing the assets and having a go with something that's probably a little bit more in your area, your interests. Can't think of words. But yeah, just give it a whirl. If there's anything that I've just skimmed over in there, hopefully it was fairly clear through my waffling. But if there's anything that you get stuck on, just ask me in session. All right, thank you very much, guys. Bye bye.